I Keep My Son Inside a Chest by Hakun Omiya. Each morning when I wake up, I open the chest where I keep my son. I stroke his small skull and murmur, "Good morning," although I know he can no longer hear me. I hope he doesn't think I've abandoned him. I hope he knows I never will. When my son died of a fever, I refused to let him go. He was only a baby and all that I had left. So I turned to the stories my own mother had told me, the rituals and legends I learned in childhood. The rules of bringing somebody back from the underworld seemed so easy. I scoffed at the stories of those who failed, sure that my willpower would be stronger than theirs. I forced my way through the fields of night, and I found my son's faint, pale soul. I guided it all the way back to his body, and never looked back once. When I saw my son open his eyes again and smile at me, I thought I had made the right choice. He laughed, he ran, he played just as he had before. I even believed I could pretend like nothing had happened. Then a few days later, I saw the rot creeping up his skin. At that moment, I realized my mistake. I hadn't restored my son to life. I had only brought his soul back to his corpse. I tried to comfort him as his body swelled and decayed. He wailed day and night in fear as his flesh fell from his bones. Only when his throat rotted away did he stop screaming. I attempted to return to the underworld, to return my son's soul, but the way would not open to me again. I cheated death, and my punishment was to keep what I had stole. When his ligaments finally broke down, I gathered his bones and placed them in the antique chest I inherited from my mother. Only the best would do for my son. Sometimes my son's bones lie still in the chest for hours, even days, and I dare to hope that his soul found its way back to where it belongs. But sooner or later, his bones always begin to rattle again. I know he's still alive. Once, all I wanted was to have my son here with me. But now, I would give anything for him to die. For My Daughter by Hyper Obscura. So, it has come to this. My hand shakes erratically as the ballpoint pen documents a story I never in my wildest imagination imagined I'd be sharing. A letter describing acts so heinous and gruesome, it'd make even the strongest stomach churn, relentlessly in convulsive contractions of disgust. I can feel the bile rising in the back of my throat as the recollection unfolds, and with each trembling stroke of the pen, a reoccurring thought echoes. How did it come to this? Dear Mom, I just can't stand the guilt anymore. Not after Anna left. I can't be around Vanessa after that. I don't trust myself with her. What if the urges overcome me? What if I one night find myself choking the life out of my own baby daughter? Tears stain the cheap printer paper. So many. There's just so many I can't keep up with all of them. I suppose the details don't really matter in the end. It's the confession that's vital. It's the words that will damn me, not the names. I've lost count. 20? 30? All young and pretty and full of life. Necks so long and slender and fragile. Eyes sparking with hopes and dreams. To witness all that vanish? To watch as the flickering light of life fade and disappear? To have power to single-handedly remove someone from existence? Who can resist such temptations? I know I can't. The crib creaks discordantly as it rocks hypnotically back and forth. Thank heavens Vanessa is sleeping. I don't want her to see this. I don't want her to remember her father dangling from a rope. You will find evidence in my basement. Pictures, trophies. Enough to identify my subjects. Enough to convict me in a posthumous trial. Enough to offer some manner of peace and solace to the grieving masses. Almost at the end now, a strange calm overcomes me, facing the inevitability of everything. End of the line. And I know deep down it's the only way. Only way to be sure. I could see the harrowing rope swinging relentlessly in my peripheral vision, a constant sobering reminder of the nature of my letter. I love you, Mom. Please believe that. Please, I beg of you, take care of Vanessa. Raise her as your own. Forget about me. Forget I ever existed. And let her play with her uncle and aunts and cousins. Let her grow up and live a full life. Let her live. I guess that's it. That's all I need. I hold the tear-stained letter up to the light, a worried glance thrown toward the ever-creaking crib. Very good, my brother says, a disturbing grin manifesting on his lips as he slowly removes the blade resting on my sleeping daughter's throat. Now sign it. My Family by Pansky. I died 8 years ago. It wasn't particularly tragic or unusual. Just a car accident. I don't blame the man who hit me. He was speeding because his wife was in labor, and there was black ice on the road. He lost control of the car, and I lost my life. It's not his fault, I know that. I'm not cruel. I'm not vengeful. If anything, I'm the opposite. You see, I don't have any family left, and I lost my few friends around that time. When it was time for my funeral, the only people who came was my boss and the family who killed me. The wife held her newborn daughter close to her chest. I hated my boss, and the cemetery was awfully lonely. So, I followed the family home. Lily may as well have been my own flesh and blood. She was sweet and bright and oh so very small. She had trouble sleeping if anyone wasn't rocking her crib, and her parents were so tired. After they put her to bed, it was easy for me to rock the crib for her. I didn't get tired. I could help her. As the years passed, Jack and Lori realized that they weren't alone in the house. It didn't take long for them to make the connection between my funeral and when I had showed up. And I'd never been malevolent, so they weren't afraid or angry. They started to burn candles on the anniversary of my death. They left an empty chair for meals and holidays. I really felt like a member of the family. Someone is trying to force the door. It's Lori's ex. He's obsessive. He's angry. He's going to hurt the family. My family. The thing about ghosts is that the more offerings you get, the stronger you become. And I'd been enjoying candles, trinkets, and even the occasional food item for the past 5 years. I was strong from that. The knife feels warm in my hand, a shock of heat against the ice of my skin. Lori, Jack, and Lily are my family. I care about them, and they're not gonna join me yet. I Know When My Husband Is Cheating on Me by Mellow Yellow Sun. I know when my husband is cheating on me. It's funny, something like 60% of marriages end in infidelity, but you never think it'll be yours. There are so many articles on it too. How to tell, what signs to watch for. Is he spending too much time at the office or just working hard? Crappy episodes of daytime TV. Some silly girl sobbing as it's all revealed. These articles, shows, dramas, they're for weaker women. I knew the moment my husband didn't love me anymore. Oh, it'll start small. He'll smile more for no reason. He'll laugh at little things she says or does. Things that he would have never in a million years found funny if you said them. And it'll only get worse. His face will light up like the sun when he sees her. And he will see her. You can't stop it. She's everything in his life. Invasive like a cancer or a leech. Sucking all of his attention and love away from you. And then, even worse, his friends, your friends, will notice. They'll tell you that they've never seen him like this before. How happy he is. It's enough to make you sick. And finally, he'll tell you. He'll tell you he's never loved like this before. That he doesn't know how he lived without her. Well, something had to be done, obviously. I love my husband. I'm not having some little temptress steal him away from me. What kind of a woman would I be then? So I took matters into my own hands. Thank God she's still so little. I don't think I could have drowned her that easily, if she could walk just yet. I should have read the reviews by Malia Girl 1314. My girlfriend moved out 3 weeks ago. My cat Rook was really close to her, and now that she's gone, I can tell he's a bit lonely. Especially when I'm at work. I came home a few times to my curtains ripped up, or all the toilet paper in shreds. The last straw was when I came home after working late to find he had clawed a hole the size of a dinner plate into the side of the sofa. I decided that I had to do something. I tried toys, even catnip, but nothing worked. One night while browsing Amazon, I saw a pet camera. It's a tiny camera that records your pet on a live feed so you can monitor their behavior while you're away. It even has an audio function so you can talk to them. Sounded silly, but hey, I love my furry dude, so I bought it. I got overnight shipping and installed it immediately. I decided to set it up in my bedroom, as that was where Rook dwelled most. My first day at work, I think I checked the camera 30 times. When I spoke into the microphone, Rook seemed to be happier, and I noticed there was no destruction around the house either. By day 4, I figured I'd solved the problem with Rook. That leads me to right now. About 30 minutes ago, I climbed into bed with Rook, ready to close my eyes, when my phone buzzed. A notification from the pet cam. I almost ignored it, sure that I just triggered the thing, but I opened it anyway. What I saw made my grip tighten on the phone. Instead of a video of myself in bed, I saw a man. Tall, gangly with pale skin and large eyes. He was moving into my room with exaggerated steps, like a sneaking cartoon character. He got right up to the lens, so close I could almost smell his rotten breath. And he smiled. I immediately paused the video, terrified. I looked at the spot where the man had been standing, but there was no one there. I went onto Amazon and found the pet cam and read the reviews, hoping for some weird glitch. It had to be a joke, right? The first dozen reviews were pretty standard, but it was the last that caused me to bolt upright. The customer complained that the camera was on a time delay, sometimes as much as 15 minutes. I went back to the video and pressed play with shaky fingers. I watched in horror as the man slithered under my bed, giving the camera a wink before disappearing into the darkness. Then, I saw myself enter the room and climb into bed before the video ended. Now, I'm sitting in my bed, knowing he's under it. I could call the police, but I doubt I'd have time. So please, do yourself a favor and read the reviews. Birthday Girl by Gosha293. Good morning, sunshine. Time to wake up. I open my eyes and see Nurse Judy ready to give me my morning injection. I sit on the bed and roll up my pajamas sleeve. I feel the needle under my skin and the medication flowing inside my veins. The nurse gives me a wide smile. Good girl. You can go to the canteen now and have breakfast with your friends. Friends. I don't have friends here. My friends are almost 60 miles away from me, enjoying life, learning new stuff, making out at parties, certainly not spending their youth in a psychiatric ward. My parents put me there. It was after another anxiety attack at school. I lost control and tried to do something stupid. Now, everything seems stupid to me. I pass by Nutsy Nora's room. Her yelling is impossible to ignore. She keeps screaming, Kelly and Jenna, over and over again, whatever those names mean. I see 2 doctors rushing into her room with a set of tranquilizers. This place is full of people like her. I don't think I belong here. I enter the canteen and hear a loud, "Surprise!" I look around and see other patients gathering around a cake with the numbered candles 1 and 7 and an inscription, "Happy Birthday, Robin." Right, it's my 17th birthday. Yay, I totally forgot. I force myself to smile and blow the candles. The cake tastes like soap, or cough syrup. I hide both candles in my pocket when nobody's watching. I guess it's the only gift I can count on today. I stop one of the nurses on my way back to my room and ask if my parents are going to see me. She shrugs and walks away without saying a word. Bitch. As I lay in bed, I stretch my arms and look at my hands. They look so weird. So damn weird. Maybe it's a side effect of one of those medications. Nurse Judy interrupts my contemplation. She storms in with an afternoon dosage of pills. "How are you feeling, my dear? Did you like the birthday surprise?" she asks with that annoyingly sweet smile. Yeah, I forgot today's the day. She takes my hands and says, "Oh, don't worry, darling. It happens to everybody." As she holds my hands, I ask her why my skin looks so strange. Nurse Judy gives me a sympathetic gaze. "I think it's normal at your age. Don't you think so, sweetie?" Is she trying to make a fool of me? Oh, I've had enough. "But I'm only 17, I say imploringly. "I don't know any other teenager with hands like these. Just look." I take the candles out of my pocket and almost rub them in her face. "You see? 1 and 7. 17, I bellow. Judy gently takes the candles from my shaking hands. "Robin, it's not 17. Let me show you the right order. It's 7 and 1. 71. The Blind Child by R.V. Coney. Stabbing. Sylvia pointed a trembling finger at my brother Arthur, her milky, unseeing eyes gleaming in his direction, and his wife, Agnes, trembling with indignation from across the table. My husband's face colored as he dropped his fork and dragged our daughter back into her bedroom, scolding her as they went. The rest of the night was awkward, and the pep in our conversation never recovered. 2 weeks later, Agnes was stabbed to death in her office parking lot. An inebriated college student found her, almost vomited all over her, and called the cops. My brother swore that he bore no ill will against my daughter, but I could tell that he was lying. One day, the middle-aged woman that taught my daughter how to read her braille called me. "Ma'am, I don't know what's going on, but your daughter's been whispering, 'electrocution, electrocution,' for the past half hour, and it's starting to distract her from her lessons. Could you please talk to her?" Sylvia, in her 9-year-old lack of understanding, told me it was just a cool new word she'd learned at school. The death of an electrocution made headlines the following week. It was a freak accident involving tangled wires and a bucket of water. Sylvia's teacher's face was blurred for privacy, but her voice was as familiar as anything to me. He was my partner, my soulmate. While my husband was working late, I called Sylvia into the living room. "Honey, is there anything Mommy should know?" She hesitated. "Honey, you know you can talk to me." She denied it once more. "I have no secrets from you, Mommy." My husband walked into the living room with his hair tousled and his eyes distant. Instead of rushing to hug her dad, Sylvia simply turned towards him. "Fire," she said. My heart stopped. Every time Sylvia said something like that, it was the person's partner who died, and of that reason too. A fire? Was Sylvia merely making predictions? Was she putting a curse on me for snooping in her business? Why? This devil child. I grew paranoid, checking the appliances and electronics constantly, and cleared the house of any fire hazards. That was my life over the next few days. All the while, I kept my eyes on Sylvia. Sylvia. I had grown almost hateful towards my own daughter. My husband came home one night, wounded and blackened with soot, while I sat in the living room and Sylvia listened to the radio beside me. "What's the matter?" I asked. He gulped. "One of my colleagues, her house caught fire. She was trapped in, but I managed to escape." That turned the gears in my head. What were you doing in her house? The expression on my husband's face was a significant admission of guilt. I opened my mouth to speak, no, to scream, but a smaller voice from beside me looked at me and whispered, "Poisoning." 24 Hours by Verjuices. Yesterday, Todd made it his mission to sleep with as many women as possible. He managed a whopping 37 in just 24 hours. An insurmountable amount for an average day. But this was not an average day. Who was going to say no to some sex? He didn't know he'd soon be the father to 6 illegitimate children, or he wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, Anne snapped and slit the throat of her toxic ex-husband. The neighbors walking by saw the whole thing through the window. but simply looked at each other, shrugged, and kept walking. Anne continued her day as usual, leaving the still warm body on her floor. She didn't know that she'd be arrested for murder, or she wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, Lacey took her husband and kids on a drive on the winding road next to the ocean. Her hand shook as she gripped the wheel, while her kids sat oblivious in the back. She and her husband shared a meaningful look as she jerked the car to the right and into the crashing ocean waves. She didn't know that she'd be shunned while lying 6 feet under, or she wouldn't have done it. Yesterday, the news was announced that an unsurvivable asteroid was headed right to Earth. Yesterday, the world erupted into unprecedented chaos as everyone had to decide what to do with their last 24 hours. But today, utter and complete pandemonium occurred because the asteroid missed. I Don't Hate My Sister by Prophetic Dreams Trash. Because of all the things I do to Renee, most people would say I hate my little sister. But I'm here to set the record straight. I didn't let Renee's cat out the back door because I hate her. Muffins is fine. I've been feeding him behind the shed. I don't flush Renee's medications before she takes them because I hate her. I was pretty panicked when I thought the toilet was gonna clog, though. I didn't erase her biology essay because I hate her. She got to see the cute librarian she was crushing on anyway. I didn't unplug her cell phone before she left the house because I hate her. I unplugged it so that Mom and Dad wouldn't be able to call her. I didn't use the faulty outlet in the living room because I hate Renee. I really don't hate my sister. The fire didn't kill Renee, because Renee didn't have to go back for muffins. Renee wasn't sleeping due to her medicine. Renee was at the library doing her report. I didn't let our mom and dad die because I hate my little sister. I did it so that she wouldn't end up buried in the garden like me. Nobody wants to go near me anymore. Nobody wants to go near me anymore. They'd sit next to me on a park bench. They'd smile when they saw me. They were completely comfortable bringing their girlfriends or kids around me. Not anymore. Not since that awful murder. Now, they cross the street to avoid me. And if they do look at me, it's only with a look of disgust. I wish I could tell them all how sorry I was. Sure, nobody blames me. It's not my fault. They know it wasn't my fault. But now, they can't stand to even glance my way. I'm so lonely. God, what I would give to have someone sit down for lunch with me. I took the little things like that for granted for so long. I had to watch him die. They hanged him and left before he was even dead. I was the only one that saw the life leave his eyes, saw the pain and desperation on his face. I couldn't do a thing to help him. Those terrified eyes will haunt me for the rest of my life, and I wanted nothing more than to just reach out and save him, point the police to the murderers, and see those awful men put in jail for the rest of their lives. But I couldn't. I'll never be able to. I can't control where my branches bend, and my leaves can only rustle and whisper in the wind. How to Scare Dad by Chi-Town 12076. My father is the scariest man I have ever known, and when armed with a bottle of beer, he reaches nightmare levels. Just the crackle of his belt or raise of his voice was enough to make me shake like a leaf. One night when I struggled to get comfortable in bed from the bruises and sounds of my mother's crying, I hatched an ingenious idea to stop the pain and suffering. Scare Dad. Clearly, he just didn't know how his actions made us feel. But if I scared him like he scared us, maybe then he would change his ways. I tried anything I could think of to produce some fright and scare Dad straight. I would hide and jump out at him, but he didn't even flinch. I placed a toy snake in the toilet, but that only resulted in a beating for me. Finally, I thought of destroying his alcohol. I know that people become scared when they lose something they love. So one by one, I poured my dad's bottles down the drain and eagerly awaited his reaction. I knew this would be it. This would be the thing to scare him. That night, I remember my father discovering the empty bottles and becoming angrier than I've ever seen him. I remember him wrecking the house. I remember him storming into my room. I remember his hands around my neck and seeing black. Luckily, my planning and hard work that night paid off, though. Today, my father lives in a constant state of fear. I'm always watching him, how timid and nervous he is at all times. Whenever I pay him a visit, his complexion turns pasty white. His body shivers like I used to, and he breaks into a cold sweat. I scared my father so good, you would think he saw a ghost. I Did Not Kill a Man When I Was 8 Years Old by Band-Aid Puppet. My stepfather hated everything my mother loved. Not just me or her hobbies, and hell, probably himself too, but everything that made her happy. But Apollo, he hated more than anything. I was 5 when me and my mom got Apollo, a skinny, skittish puppy at the time. He was patient with me. Toddlers aren't always nice, but he worshipped Mom. The little I remember of that time was happiness. I was 7 when that man moved in. He didn't tolerate happiness in the house. He kicked Apollo for being too loud, and soon kicked me as well. After almost losing a finger, he learned not to hit us when Apollo was there. If he had known that I had noticed that he feared the dog, he would have beat me for noticing. He hated weakness. It was always someone else's fault if he didn't like how he was feeling. After a while, he started ordering me to herd Apollo into another room and close the door when he wanted to beat my mother. Apollo would bark, howl, and claw at the door when it happened. The neighbors called animal protection 3 times, but never called the police. Some dogs can open doors. Apollo wasn't one of them. I did not kill a man when I was 8 years old. All I did was open a door. Am I the asshole for pranking my 241 female boyfriend after he, 25 male, pranked me many times before? By Juz21947. My boyfriend and I have a great, easygoing relationship. He pranks me all the time. His most common joke is hiding behind the door to jump scare me. Just last week, he snuck into the bathroom to surprise me when I was showering. All good fun. 3 days ago, I decided to get him back. While he was sleeping, I grabbed the handcuffs we use for sexy times and cuffed him to the bed. He woke up right after with a huge smile on his face, thinking we were about to get naughty. He didn't expect me to take out a handsaw from the garage. "Babe, watch this," I said. I put the hacksaw right at my neck and started slashing away. So much blood poured out of me, you wouldn't believe. It splattered his face and he looked like he came straight out of a horror movie. I was having a hoot sawing my head off and he was just screaming and screaming. It took me a while, but when I was done, I did a little dance while holding my head to try and calm him down. That was one of our things. We like to dance while joking around. I think I danced for around 10 minutes while holding my head by the hair in one hand and the hacksaw with the other. He just screamed the entire time. I tried to tell him that it was okay, that this was just a joke or whatever, but nothing worked. He would not stop screaming. Finally, I put my head back and tried to kiss him. He pulled away really harshly, and I have to admit it hurt a little. That was 3 days ago. Since then, he kept trying to make me let him go, but I just can't. I love him too much. We're meant to be together, I know it. I've been taking care of him since then though, don't worry. I feed him nice treats, I clean up when he relieves himself. I've done all these things, but he still won't talk to me properly. I know he'll lighten up eventually, but sometimes he calls me these hurtful names like monster or demon or whatever. It makes me think I've done something wrong when all I've done is try to make him smile. So Reddit, am I the asshole? I Am a Good Liar by Do Not Disturb Please. I am a good liar. I have been my whole life. I'm 20 years old. Or am I 13? Or 11? I'm such a good liar, I could convincingly tell you anything. It was my father who first taught me how to lie. Look them dead in the eyes, son. Don't blink or look to one side. Dead in the eyes. Speak calmly. Add in small details, the ones that aren't important. That makes things more believable. So every day I concoct a new adventure to tell my classmates. They lap it up. They believe I live in the big mansion and that I only wear tatty clothes because my parents don't want me to be spoiled. They don't know that I actually live in a caravan in the field behind it. That week, I told them my parents had taken me off to a ski resort for the weekend. We met Prince William up there. He loves skiing. I was really bad at it, but Will, he said I could call him that. He said it didn't matter because he thought I was really funny. I must have fallen over right in front of him about 8 times. We're going to be invited to dinner at Windsor Castle soon. I liked that story. It's another thing that my father taught me about lying. You can't always paint yourself as the hero. Sometimes you have to be bad at things. Today, I'm telling them an even better lie. They opened the aquarium especially for me, I say, breathing evenly. My parents just knew that I always dreamed of swimming with the sharks. I looked directly at them. I don't know if you've seen, but they have those love little orange fish at the aquarium too, like Nemo. I got a stuffed one from the gift shop, but I'll get some real ones soon. It's all about the details, the little inconsequential details. Anyway, the shark swimming went a bit wrong. The shark tried to attack me, but I fought it off. I shrugged nonchalantly and basked in their awe. One girl asked if she could touch the red gash across my face. It was my father who taught me how to lie. I have to be believed when I explain away the injuries he gives me, or he'll kill me. I'm a good liar, but a very bad boy. Someone broke into our house by perfect nightmare. It was every family's nightmare. My wife and I had the day off work, and we had taken our son out for lunch and some family bonding time. But as we approached our home, something felt off. I had a growing sense of dread the closer we got. As our house came into view, I could see that the front door was wide open. Someone had broken into our home. I told my family to wait outside in case the intruder was still inside. They obliged, and I slowly and silently made my way through our house. As I stepped into the living room, I saw broken furniture, nothing in its correct place, just utter chaos. Was this person looking for something? Did they have malicious intent? Why our home? Why us? Next, I walked to our kitchen. The fridge had been emptied. Dishes and food were thrown all over the room. What kind of person had broken into our home? A homeless person who just needed food? If so, why had they destroyed the living room? But that's when I heard it. Footsteps in the bedroom. The intruder was still in our house. I took a brief moment to be grateful that I had asked my wife and son to wait outside. It was impossible to decipher this person's motives so far, but I was about to come face to face with the person that forcefully entered our home, and I would demand answers. I crept toward the bedroom slowly. I approached the door and focused on the sliver of light slipping through the crack. I could see faint shadows dancing in the light. I raised my hand, placed it against the door, and took a deep breath, readying myself for whatever may be on the other side. I pushed the door open and stepped through the threshold with authority. I couldn't believe my eyes. I actually rubbed my hands over them, thinking I was just imagining things. There, in my son's bed, was a young girl with curly blonde hair. She stared at me with wide eyes. She must have been terrified. I must have been a few feet taller, and at least 100 pounds heavier than her. I must have been a sight to see for that little girl, but she should have considered that before breaking into my home. I called my wife and son to see what I found. "Is that a human, Papa?" "Why, yes it is, baby bear. That's dinner." Roller Coaster by My. "Mom, I don't like it. I want to get off." I was a bit surprised. He had always been so brave. I was way more afraid than him when we got on. I never liked being so high up from the ground. "This will be so much fun," he said when we were parking the car. I kinda hoped that he would be strong for both of us. "Oh, honey, I'm sorry, but we can't get off now. The ride has already started. But remember the small roller coaster in the park we went to see when you were little? With the funny clown? This is just like that, only bigger. And remember how awesome that was?" My son looked at me with watery eyes. Oh God. He had been so excited about this. I tried to swallow my own nervousness and keep talking to calm him down. My voice was shaking a bit, but I managed to put on a smile. It's okay. You might feel a bit funny in your stomach. It's because of the speed and the changes of the force that pushes you. It's normal. Listen, do you hear? Other people are scared too." He looked at me with his kind blue eyes and nodded, just barely. I wanted to hug him, but my back was pressing against the seat so heavily I couldn't move enough. So was his. My eyes caught a glimpse of the sun over my son's head. The sky was so bright. I tried to ignore the metallic clanging sound and people screaming everywhere that seemed to be so far away. Oh, how I missed the ground. Then, I felt a big drop in my stomach. We were going faster and faster. My son started sobbing and I tightened my grip on his hand. I thought that he would become such a handsome man someday. He would end up having a good life and marry a nice girl. Or guy, who knows. I didn't care as long as he was happy. That's all I wanted, for him to be happy and not scared. "Hey, you know what? Close your eyes. This will be over soon, I'm here. I'm not letting go." Someone behind us started to scream. I felt my blood run cold. I tried to keep my focus on the one thing that mattered, my son's hand, and my calm voice that kept telling him that it was all going to be okay. Oh, he would have become such a handsome man someday. But at this moment, he was just a 6-year-old boy on his first flight, going to surprise his grandparents all the way across the country. And the last thing I saw before I closed my own eyes was the second engine on fire. 6,500 Languages by Mint Clicker. I should have wished to be rich, but felt it was too self-serving. I should have wished for fame, but felt I'd lose privacy. I should have wished for world peace, but felt one country's peace could be another country's poverty. I cursed the day that I met the Wishmaster, and even more so for the perfect wish I thought I'd come up with. I would like to become a master of language. The Wishmaster hesitated and asked, "Of every language?" I nodded. The wish was educational in nature, so it couldn't have been purely vanity pushing me to become an expert linguist. The wish could not possibly affect anyone adversely, for it truly only affected me. The sole purpose of the wish was to further communications and perhaps close the global gap just a bit by having someone act as a language liaison. How long does it take for someone to become a master at something? Confused, I responded with, I mean, 10,000 hours of deliberate, focused practice is the rumor. The Wishmaster went silent. Then 10,000 hours of deliberate, focused practice and you'd become a master at language? I suppose so. But that's only considering one language at 10,000 hours, right? I shrugged, but agreed. I was unsure where this was headed until I noticed the wind slowing to a stop. A stillness. The ambient white noise of the city was now deafening silence, and suddenly I was whisked from being face to face with the Wishmaster and into my own study, armed with a pen, pad of paper, English dictionary, with the doors shuttering locked. Again confused, I asked aloud to no one in particular, "What's going on? Why am I in my house? Or why do I have a dictionary in front of me?" A disembodied voice responded, "This is to give you the deliberate, focused practice you need. I figure English would be the easiest, since you already speak it." "I'm sorry, I don't understand what's going on. I wanted to be a master at every language. What does this have to do with anything?" The voice ignored. From there, we can move on by language in alphabetical order. I hope you're looking forward to Afrikaans after the first 10,000 hours. And the Wishmaster has been silent since. I should have wished to be rich, for fame, for world peace. Instead, I'm frozen in time studying until the Wishmaster deems me an expert. If the metric is 10,000 hours, that's a little over a year for each language. This may be fine, I mean, how many world languages can there really be? In Event of Nuclear Disaster by Flip Fifth. With each passing day, it was becoming more obvious that the war would not have a peaceful end. All over America, people were receiving a letter from the government. It contained a simple pamphlet with a short set of instructions and pictures. In event of nuclear disaster. The looming threat from the Eastern Bloc is growing. In order to save yourself and your family, it is of the utmost importance that you act now. Build a fallout shelter. Dig a hole in your garden. Make it 8 by 4 by 6 feet at least. See pictures. If you do not own a garden, find a suitable spot somewhere else, even if it's on someone else's land. The law has been changed to allow people to build a shelter each. In case of a nuclear threat, you are to bring your family into the hole and cover it with a door. Make sure the door has weights fastened on it. See pictures. If you hear a detonation, wait approximately 2 hours before you leave the shelter to be sure that no more bombs are coming. Good luck. The following days, people busied themselves with following the instructions. It was a very strange sight. The whole of Central Park, New York was filled with these makeshift shelters. Driving down the street, you could see one by every house. And when the alarms sounded, people scrambled into them. Those who had not built a shelter of their own forced their way into others. In hindsight, it is impossible to know how many believed that the shelters would save them, and how many realized that they were simply being asked to dig their own graves. Wars are expensive, and every penny counts. Salami, Olives, Sausage by Litlith's Love. There was nothing special about the pizza place where I worked. It offered you run-of-the-mill dough, strategically covered in enough grease to trick you into thinking it actually tasted good. There was nothing glamorous about the job. I didn't get to make great discoveries or save lives, but it was a job that paid the bills. Bills. My rent was due tomorrow. My gut clenched, reminding me of my account balance. My tips tonight would determine if I'd be paying it on time or not. I barely heard the screen chime as an online order came in. 1 small pizza with salami, olives, and sausage. Simple enough, I thought. I created the artery-killing monster and gave it to the delivery driver, Carl. He glanced down at the address and scoffed. 19 South Street? That's like 2 blocks away. Lazy bastard couldn't just walk over for it? Hey, delivery gives better tips. Remember, you owe me half, I said, and wondered if the desperation came through in my voice. Carl turned and waved his hand in the air like a child waving off a nagging mother trying to remind her son to wash behind his ears. He wasn't gone 10 minutes before he was back, pizza box still in hand. Lazy bastard didn't even answer the door. I tried calling, no answer. Want to split it? I eyed the pizza. As sick as I was of it, I had barely eaten today. Yeah, sure. What was on it? Salami, olives, and sausage. Ew. Never mind, it's all yours. I shrugged and broke the seal of the box. It was a sticker that promised and lied about using only fresh ingredients. I took a bite into the first piece. It was salty, the toppings an overwhelming choice. It felt good in my stomach, filling me up more than my lunch of ramen had. As I walked home that night, the pizza wasn't setting quite as well as it had been. Too much junk, I told myself, not enough food. My stomach turned harder when I saw the flashing lights ahead of me. 5 police cars and an ambulance in front of a small house. My walking slowed as I got closer. A group of people had gathered around the police tape, warded off by the force field of yellow and black lines. I walked to the nearest group of people and motioned towards the house with a nod to my head. An old lady near me sighed. Boyfriend held his girlfriend hostage inside. snapped and killed her when she tried to escape. God rest her soul, she was just a young thing. I looked back at the crime scene, noticing the house number beneath the smear of blood. My breath caught in my throat and I struggled not to choke. My eyes watered. 19th South Street. The same house that had ordered the pizza. Salami, olives, sausage. Plague Spreader by Arlen Bradley. I'm infected. You know what I'm infected with. You saw it on the news. The World Health Organization called it a pandemic the other day. I never thought that it would infect me, but it did. Now, I don't know what to do. Unlike some people my age, I don't have a salary. I don't have any sick days. I used them all up when I sprained my ankle in January. Brett says I need a doctor's note to get paid leave. You know, to make sure I'm not capitalizing on the paranoia to dodge shifts. He doesn't want to set a precedent. Problem is, I can't afford the bill. Sure, it's not a $100,000 heart attack bill, but $175 for a checkup is almost half a week's pay. I know I need to self-quarantine, but I don't have any savings. I can't pay rent if I don't go out and make rent money. You know what I need to do, but I'm not sure if I have the stomach to do it. I checked the clock. 45 minutes until my shift starts. Gotta get moving. Donning a medical mask, I broke quarantine. As I rode the bus, disease spewed from my mouth like a thick green fog. My noxious gases carried malicious little germs. A child looked up at me. Microscopic predators scurried across her skin, into her eyes and mouth. Soon, she too leaked green. I imagined her sick and dying. I imagined all the people her infernal vapors would infect. She smiled at me. Smile while you can, little one. Smile before the plague begins. Getting off the bus, I watched 1,000 subtle suicides. A man on a bench licked ketchup off his hand and began leaking green. A little boy sipped from a public fountain and began leaking green. A woman already leaking kissed her husband, regurgitating green into his mouth like a mother bird. I coughed. Bystanders recoiled. If they only saw what I could see, they would break down into tears. When I showed up for work, Brett yelled at me and told me to take off my mask. He told me I'm scaring away customers while spitting leak like a toxic flamethrower. I protested, but he insisted. Just wash your hands, he said. It'll be fine, he said. I washed my hands, dirtying them again the second they touched my breath. By the time I'd gotten ready and clocked in, plague filled the building like a tainted hotbox. I thought about leaving. I thought about running away. But I didn't. Instead, I put on a smile and greeted my next victim. Welcome to Burger King. May I take your order? There is no off switch by Cinema. Enertech has announced its latest revolutionary product, the Workday chip. With this product, a person can go a whole workday and not even know it. It automatically initiates a sleep sequence in the user's brain, then controls their muscles so that they can do their job while completely unconscious. All of a person's energy can now be put into things that really matter. Hobbies, family, friends. They never have to think about work again, unless they're picking up a paycheck. Soon, this chip became a regular part of life. Some companies even started to give them out for free to employees. It's a win-win. The company gets more effective workers, and the employees no longer have the stress of a job. You can hardly even tell a person was unconscious. The chip recognizes the patterns and could converse just like the user would. For a while, this seemed like the perfect system. 3 years after implementing the Workday chip, the disease broke out, nicknamed the Red Flame disease. It caused a terrible combination of coughing up blood and intense burning pain, and soon the majority of the population was affected. Even though most people were in no state to work, the chip forced them to automatically. There was no off switch, and it was able to pick locks or break doors down in order to get its users to work. In the end, it didn't matter if a person had the chip or not. Everyone ended up dead. From the moment you first coughed up blood, you had mere days left to live. The disease didn't discriminate between the old and the young. Every single person eventually succumbed. It all happened so quickly that the bodies never even got taken care of. They were just left in their homes to rot away. Now roaming the streets are corpses, doing nothing but going through the motions as if they were ghosts. Dead baristas trying to ask customers that don't exist for their order, but some no longer have tongues. Shriveled hands work in factories to produce gadgets for nobody. Businessmen look before crossing the street on their way to work, but no longer have any eyes. These ghost-like beings are stuck in a strange purgatory. They are dead, but not at peace. Watching over these ghosts are the CEOs, the top 1%. They live in elaborate bunkers and clink glasses, laughing about how they will never have to pay another worker again. The workday chip has no off switch, and that's exactly how it's meant to be. 10 Simple Rules for Surviving the Apocalypse by Winsome Jesse. 1. Find a breathing mask immediately. There are things in the air, small, microscopic things that float like pollen and enter through your nose and mouth. If you have ever been out and thought you smelled something sweet like cotton candy, it's too late. Your lungs are about to liquefy slowly, cell by cell. Sorry about that. 2. Only drink from fast-moving streams. It doesn't matter if you got a water filtration unit. Never collect water from ponds or lakes. It's not because of the dead bodies. It's the half-dead ones. They can stay down there for months at a time, just waiting for someone who doesn't know better. 3. Stay away from settlements. Any half-decent settlement already has too many mouths to feed. If you ask, they'll let you in, but they won't let you stay. They've got all those hungry mouths after all. 4. Don't eat the birds. I don't know what these new birds are, but they smell like tar, and their meat can burn a hole in your throat. Stick with canned goods and cockroaches. 5. It's safe to travel by night, but if you hear a sound like a ticking stopwatch, stand perfectly still and wait until the sun comes up. They'll pass by, as long as you don't move. 6. Don't aim for the heart or the brain. Aim for the legs, if they can walk. Aim for the arms if they can crawl. Don't assume anything will stay down for good. Just make sure you can run faster than they can. 7. Red sores heal with time. White sores will rot down the bone within 48 hours. Remove the limb, cauterize the wound. That should buy you a few weeks at least. 8. The living don't knock. If you're holed up somewhere with 4 walls and you hear someone knocking, ignore it. Whatever it is needs you to let it in, and you don't really want to do that. 9. Don't be alarmed if you see angels. It's normal to see beings made of soft light descending from the heavens. It just means that there are parasites attached to your optic nerves. They can't kill you. They'll just consume your eyeballs from the inside out. 10. Always leave 1 bullet for yourself. It's a brave, difficult thing to make a life here in the after. But eventually, you'll get tired. Eventually, you'll see that of all the things you can do during the apocalypse, surviving might just be the worst. But that's for you to discover. Until then, good luck. Moments Before the Tragedy by Mint Clicker. At 3, she jumped off the bed. At 7, she unbuckled her seatbelt. At 12, she went to a sleepover at a friend's house. At 17, she finally received her driver's license. At 26, she said yes. At 30, she went into labor. At 39, she had one last hurrah. At 46, she signed the papers to make it final. At 55, he was diagnosed, and he had no one to share the news with. At 61, she celebrated her remission with a night out. At 22, she looked at herself in the mirror. At 87, surrounded by family and friends, she smiled. These are moments before every tragedy, quick flashes of boredom or happiness, of the expected and unexpected. These moments I see, the little girl jumping off her parents' bed and into an unresponsive final state. Another girl attending her first sleepover. excited and giddy only to succumb to an unknown fatal nut allergy. The young woman whose proposal near the shoreline was poorly thought out, never allowing her to live to see her marriage. The older woman who finally divorced the man she came to loathe, and for that man to not take the finality of it all with dignity or peace. The man whose diagnosis was terminal. The woman whose 40th birthday ended in heartache and disaster. The girl whose last glimpse in the mirror was of herself, relieved, then raising the pistol to her temple. These moments are the final looks to life before tragedy ultimately hits. And I watch them. I have to. It's my responsibility to take you all from this realm to the next. It's my duty, and I'm very sorry. I truly am. Because now, at this moment, they read the final sentences of a story. Some bored, some happy, some expecting this ending, some not. And I watch as they read these last words, fully oblivious as they are that this is their moment. Search History by Moonhorse96. How to hide the bodies. How to clean up blood. Penalty for homicide. My entire search history is filled with this crap. It must be my wife. I'm sure of it. I had deleted my entire search history 2 years ago, but she keeps putting them back in. She still isn't over the fact that I killed her. Today I fucked up by trying to have a threesome with my girlfriend and her sister by Sugar Sode. Obligatory, this did not happen today, but actually happened last weekend. My girlfriend Chloe is still not talking to me and walks out of the room anytime I try to talk to her. A little backstory about Chloe will probably help. She is the world's most perfect person, and my life is honestly better with her in it. We've been dating for almost 3 years and still have a very active sex life. She is into really kinky stuff and loves to include random things into our lovemaking. I know that she's always wanted a threesome, so I decided to organize it for her birthday. I set up everything and even brought her sister over so that she could be there for the big reveal. I put a blindfold on Chloe's eyes when she got home and led her to the bedroom. Chloe began to scream at me when I took the blindfold off. She started accusing me of being in love with her sister as she knew that I had a crush on her. I tried to calm her down, but she stormed out of the house and spent the night at a friend's house. I looked over at her sister and realized that I probably should have chosen someone else. I picked up her body and placed it in the car so that I could return it to the graveyard. Heart by Tesla Toth. Our daughter was born dying. Childhood leukemia, they said. Just a bad draw of the cards. The white blood cells inside her, designed to protect her from harm, instead began attacking her, rotting her from the inside out. Her mother and I, also designed to protect her, could do nothing but watch as she slowly wasted away. We named her Viv, short for Vivian, French for alive, defiant, but ultimately not prophetic of her fate. We buried Viv on her 5th birthday. About 5 years of constant heartbreak. Our friends and family hoped that we would feel some relief when she finally passed. Instead, the heartbreak continued, as omnipresent and suffocating as ever. We hosted seances, burned incense, used Ouija boards, anything to try to keep her, or some small part of her, alive. It was all a waste of time, really. And we knew that, but we never gave up. Until one morning, getting out of the shower, I noticed something drawn on the steam of the bathroom mirror. A heart. I assumed my wife had left it for me, but when I entered the bedroom I found her asleep. I kept the image to myself for the time being, assuming I had dreamt it. But then I began to see it elsewhere. A heart drawn into the fresh fallen snow with no footprints nearby. A heart written in ballpoint pen on my yellow legal pad I just unwrapped from the plastic. A heart arranged in string beans on top of my meatloaf in the microwave dinner. Viv had died before we'd probably taught her to write, but she knew what the symbol meant. Love. I took it to mean many things. That she was safe, that she was happy, that she was still with us. Finally, I gathered the courage to tell my wife, She didn't take it well. It began with disbelief, then anger. I showed her pictures I had taken of the symbol, but of course, there was no proof of where they'd come from. It could have been drawn by myself, she said. She became certain that I was toying with her emotions. I understood how she felt. She didn't want to get her hopes up and have them crushed. It didn't stop me from yelling back at her. It didn't stop me from throwing the dinner plate at the wall. She stormed out of the house, and I didn't stop her from going. It was then that I felt it. Shortness of breath, numbness in my left arm, a sharp pain in my chest. I collapsed to the floor, realizing my mistake. Heart. Viv hadn't been saying she loved me. Viv had been trying to warn me. My girlfriend is always comparing me to her ex-boyfriend by Sugar Sode. So I, 36 male, have been with my girlfriend Chloe, 35 female, for the last 2 years. We are in a really happy relationship, and I've even considered marrying her in the near future. The only issue that I have with her is that she is constantly comparing me to her ex-boyfriend Mark. It is really annoying, and it's kind of starting to hurt my feelings. If I ever do something wrong, then she would always point out that Mark wouldn't have made that mistake. I know that they were childhood sweethearts and they were together for over 10 years, but I really think she needs to stop doing this. She always gives me the silent treatment afterwards when I ask her to stop, which always makes me feel like I did something wrong. It is really starting to get on my nerves, so I decided to organize a meeting between the three of us and make her choose which one of us she wants. I knew she would be home late on Sunday evening, so I decided that was the perfect day for the meeting. Me and Mark were sitting at the kitchen table when she walked in, and I could see the look of shock on her face when she saw him. She fainted to the ground, and I knew that she wanted Mark. I decided I would stand aside and let them be together. I placed Mark's rotting corpse back into his grave and then carefully lowered Chloe on top of him before closing the coffin. I started throwing the dirt on top of the grave so that no one would ever know that it was disturbed. I could hear Chloe's screams of what I assume were joy as she was finally reunited with the love of her life. I felt horrible that we were breaking up, but I didn't want to stand in the way of true love. Take Her Swimming on the First Date by Jeremy C. North. Fake lips, fake eyelashes, fake brows, fake complexion, fake curves, and fake hair. All that, and no wonder blokes don't trust women nowadays. I ring the doorbell and my date answers, looking just as stunning as when I asked her out at the pub. Anthea's a Mediterranean beauty, dark blonde hair framing her bandaged dress, her olive skin radiant. That's just how she looks. Me and my mates know looks can be deceiving. The amount of foundation that some of these stuck-up birds in our neighborhood put on is atrocious. Who gave them the idea that vain cake faces are what guys dig? Everyone always jokes about how if you don't want to wake up next to a 2, you need to take her swimming. Well, I'm not joking tonight. Where are we headed? Anthea coyly asked from my passenger seat. I hope I'm not overdressed. I reply. I'm thinking that we could take a walk by the shore, sit on the pier and just relax. Sure, that sounds like a nice first date. Just no swimming, okay? Typical princess, I think smugly as I nod. What Miss Perfect doesn't know is that I'm actually planning a midnight dip in the sea for her. It'll be the ultimate gag, snapping a video for the group chat of the ice cream melting after I've tossed her off the pier. Tonight was wonderful, Alfie. Anthea swoons to me later that evening, dangling her legs over the jetty. Surreptitiously, I set my phone on the boardwalk to record her climbing out of the ocean. Now, it's finally showtime. I interlock my fingers with hers. I suddenly send the two of us lurching into the water. As I surface, I expect to see mascara running and waterlogged extensions. Indeed, my date's form is beginning to melt away. But what I'm glimpsing is skin shedding into scales, fingers melding into webbed claws. I could only tread water as the woman metamorphosizes into a serpentine monster before my eyes. Whatever illusion this creature had going, seawater had clearly broken it, and Anthea is not happy. We could have had such a fun time together, she hisses, incensed. This is premature. With that, the sea siren viciously seizes me and drags me underneath the waves, her voice echoing on as the water fills my lungs. I only take men drowning on the last date. My girl likes to pretend. By writing is fun, but you suck. I hate when she does this to me. I get the flirtatiousness behind it, but sometimes I'm just tired and don't want to feel like I have to work for her affection. Why does she enjoy pretending like we're not dating anymore? I'm not an insecure man, but sometimes she makes me doubt myself. I finally get to the shop where she works, and I stop outside, peering through the window. She's there, gorgeous as ever, talking to a man whose body language tells me he's interested. As I watch them, it becomes obvious that she's encouraging the attention. I try not to get jealous, as I remind myself that it's all an act. After lingering for a while longer, allowing them to flirt in front of me to get myself in the proper headspace, I burst into the shop. "Hey baby," I say to her as I approach them. Her face scrunches up when she sees me, an attempt at looking scared. Sometimes I think her acting is embarrassing, but I'm sure this jackass is buying it. "You aren't allowed to be here," the fake panic in her voice admittedly more believable than her facial expression. Despite my annoyance at having to go through the whole song and dance, I feel a bit proud of her. She's getting better at pretending, and she's still my girl after all. Who has a significant other who doesn't make them jump through hoops from time to time? "Don't be like that," I say. "Come on, I'll drive you home." I reach out and put my hand on her arm, but the wannabe hero steps between us. "Is there a problem here?" he asks her, keeping his eyes on me. "Yes," she answers. "Get out of here, Jake. I don't want you here." I said, "Don't be like that. Let's go." "Man, I think you better get the fuck out of here," the dude says. I look him over, noticing how large his muscles are, of course. She always picks this type. "Get out of here," my girl repeats, really making me work today. "I'm calling the cops." She reaches for a phone, selling the hell out of her performance. "Fine, I'm gone," I say, and turn and walk out. 2 hours later, I'm watching them kiss passionately through her bedroom window. I open it slowly and quietly slip in. My girl shrieks. "It's my stalker," she screams, not loudly enough to alert the neighbors. And the dude is up in a flash. My knife is faster though, and his throat opens up. Blood pours out onto the bed as he wobbles a little. Finally, he collapses in a heap. "Are you gonna hurt me, mister?" she asks. "Oh yeah," I say. "Real badly." She smiles at me wolfishly. I smile back. We don't bother cleaning the blood up first. She doesn't mind if it's a little messy. Everybody has a thing. Sometimes, though, I wish hers was leather. I am the YouTube sensation Miracle Mom, where I document what it's like to raise a paralyzed teenage daughter. By long story short. I've grown up believing that my face is my trophy. It was supposed to be my key to stardom, and it did land me a couple of local TV ads or a minor role in a soap. My fame, however, lasted probably for 15 minutes before my parents decided to get me married off, and I ended up with my baby girl, Tara. I spent some time Googling that name. It meant star in Hindi, and I thought it'll be ironic considering how having a baby is what stopped me from becoming a star. I never openly admitted it to anyone, but sometimes I wonder what my life could have been if Tara had never been born. She was the spitting image of me down to every last detail. She could have made it to the big screens. That was until the devastating sickness left her paralyzed at the age of 13. Undoubtedly, it tore my family apart. My husband and I rushed to every single doctor begging them to treat our daughter. My husband couldn't take it anymore, and he walked out of our lives and never bothered to keep contact. Coming to terms that Tara's condition was irreversible, I found myself in front of the camera again, but this time, it was for her. I would document my day, our routine, the food that I prepared. I even acted out scenes from my soap opera days in front of her. My channel, Miracle Mom, received an overwhelming response from mothers all around the world. I had believed that I went viral because people were lining up to take interviews, sending gift baskets home. There were Miracle Mom t-shirts being sold. My recent video had the most number of views so far, where I thanked everyone for their immense support. Dinner time is when the cameras are all off though. That's when I spend some alone time with Tara, before I put her to bed and feed her a few sips of my special drink. It contains lemon, a little bit of sugar, and exactly half a teaspoon of this weirdly powdered substance that I bought from a voodoo herb shop. It came with clear instructions. Anything more than half a teaspoon is sure to stop one's heartbeat. But just enough would allow for Tara to lose all muscular ability, and it would even go undetected by any blood or urine samples collected by doctors. You see, when the doors of stardom closed for me at a young age, a window of opportunity presented itself in the form of my very own daughter. You understand that I'm doing this for both of us, right, Tara? I would tell her as I feed her. When I had you, I lost everything. But look at us now, we're both happy, aren't we? A tear rolled down her cheek. I knew she could listen to me. She probably hated me. I wiped it away. Save the tears for the next video, okay? It'll get us more views. Dual Sensory Loss by Her Creation. In my old age, I've dealt with hearing and vision loss. I'm lucky enough to have my children come and care for me after my dear husband Richard passed a few months ago. I can barely hear a thing, I say frowning. You'll have to speak very loudly or I won't hear you at all. They care for me, my daughter mostly, but my son helps out around the house too. My daughter Germa brings me bowls of hot soup and spoon feeds me. She's a nurse. She gives me pills to help with the pains of growing old. The pains of losing the only love I have ever known. I always go down for a long nap right after lunch. I'm blind as a bat, I say, chuckling at my own misfortune. I haven't seen my children in years, and now I can't even see you. My son Roger installs a couple grab bars in the bathroom. I almost fall once getting out of the tub, even though I steadied myself with a hand on the metal bar just like Roger insists. When it broke off, I was lucky enough to collapse against the wall instead of falling all the way down. I ended up with a nasty, tender bruise all along one arm. Germa, of course, is quick to offer some painkillers. She loudly explains that although the deep purple, almost black bruise looks bad, it's much better than a broken hip. A fall like that could kill me at this age. Roger even puts in a fancy new tub lift so I can get in and out of the bath real easy, but says I still need to be monitored from now on. I'm not comfortable with him watching, so Germa sits close by to turn it on and make sure it doesn't malfunction. I can barely hear a thing, I tell them, but I can still hear them talking in the kitchen after my daughter leaves me for my afternoon nap. I'm just really struggling right now, Germa moans. Aren't you worried about your family? Roger sighs, exhausted. Yeah, I am. The wife had to take a second job just to make ends meet. I can barely hear a thing, I tell them, but I can still hear Germa padding over to my bedroom door and pressing it open gently. I squint my eyes shut. The pills make me drowsy, but I've pocketed every one of them since the first week, since my suspicions were confirmed that Richard's heart didn't fail naturally, since I heard them admit what they'd done to him in their own words. I'm as blind as a bat, I tell them, but when I crack one eye open, I can still see Germa creeping closer with a pillow in her arms. I wrap my fingers around the handle of the knife I keep under my pillow and smile. Let the greedy bitch try to get me too. Ooh, there we go. 31 short stories. I don't know how long this video will be, but it's taken me about 2.5 hours to read. So if you made it to the end, thank you so much for the support. This is sort of a Halloween special, kind of a one-off thing, but if you enjoyed listening to me read these stories, let me know down in the comments below, and maybe I could start working them into the schedule. But either way, normal uploads will continue. So be sure to like, subscribe, and have a safe Halloween. I'll see you next time.